I'm Peggy. Sitting in my office, I'm looking at the news about the bankruptcy of Sterling Enterprises, the family business. It's a strange feeling, a mix of satisfaction and a twinge of sadness. The memories of that fateful family meeting flood back, and I'm taken back to the moment when everything changed. The boardroom at Sterling Enterprises was filled with the rich scent of polished wood and the air of old money. My parents, Henry and Eleanor, sat at the head of the long mahogany table. My older sister, Amelia, was there, looking sleek in her designer suit. And there I was, at the far end, holding my investment proposal in a simple folder. "Thank you all for coming," Dad said, adjusting his reading glasses. "We've called this family meeting to discuss expansion opportunities for Sterling Enterprises. We've had several potential investors approach us about our manufacturing division." Mom nodded, her diamond earrings catching the light. "We'd like to keep this in the family if possible. That's why we've invited each of you to present investment proposals." Amelia went first. She had a flashy PowerPoint presentation with graphs and market analysis. "I'm proposing a $3 million investment," she announced confidently. "My contacts in the private equity world are eager to back Sterling's expansion into the European market. We'd restructure the manufacturing division, bring in top-notch management, and aim for acquisition within 4 years." Dad beamed. "Excellent work, Amelia. You're really on top of things." Mom added, always thinking big. The CFO, David Thompson, made notes on his tablet. "Amelia, what's your expected ROI timeline?" 24 months to profitability, full return within 5 years. "A conservative estimate," she replied. "Impressive," the attorney, Mr. Harris, said. Then they all turned to me. "Peggy," Dad's tone was cold. "You said you had something to present?" I opened my folder. "Yes. I'm proposing a $900,000 investment in the manufacturing division. I've analyzed the production costs, found ways to improve efficiency, and developed a plan to increase output by 40% without adding more staff." There was a moment of silence, and then Amelia laughed. $900,000? That's hardly enough. I calmly slid copies of my proposal across the table. "It's sufficient for the improvements I've outlined. The key is to optimize our existing infrastructure instead of expanding too quickly." Dad picked up my proposal, flipped through it briefly, and put it down. "Peggy, this is nice, but we're looking for serious investors. You work at a local charity, making $70,000 a year. Where on earth would you get $900,000? I said, "I have resources." Amelia smirked. "Resources? What resources? Did you win the lottery?" I replied, "I've been investing for years and have capital available." Dad exchanged a look with Mom. "Peggy, I appreciate the effort, but Sterling Enterprises is a $20 million operation. We need sophisticated investors who understand complex financial structures, not someone playing at business." Mom interrupted, "Honey, you're great at your charity work, but this is out of your league." David cleared his throat. "For what it's worth, I did review Peggy's proposal. Some of her efficiency ideas are quite good." Dad cut him off. "We're not going to waste time on a $900,000 proposal when Amelia is bringing $3 million with professional backing." Just then, David said quietly, "We should discuss our current capital structure before taking on new investment." Dad asked, "What's there to discuss?" "We're in good financial shape." David pulled up a spreadsheet on his tablet. "Sterling Enterprises has multiple investors over several funding rounds. The majority stake, about 65% of the equity, is held by a single investor through various investment vehicles." Amelia asked, "What investor?" "I thought this was a family business." David explained, "Over the past 7 years, we've taken on outside capital for expansion. The primary investor is an entity called Silvercrest Capital Group. They've been involved in every funding round since 2020, starting with $250,000 and gradually increasing their position. In total, they've invested $6 million. The room went silent. Dad's face turned red. Why wasn't I informed about this? David replied, you signed off on every investment round. The paperwork is in order, but you didn't realize they'd amassed such a large stake. Mom leaned forward. Who is Silvercrest Capital? What do they want? David said, they're a private investment group. They've been hands-off, never exercised their board rights, and only asked for standard quarterly reports. They've been ideal investors so far. The attorney, Mr. Harris, said grimly, if they hold 65%, they effectively control Sterling Enterprises. They could force decisions, restructure operations. David interrupted, they've been completely passive so far. Dad said, I don't like the idea of an unknown investor controlling my family business. David, look into buying back their position. David replied, with what capital, sir? That would destabilize the company. Their investment has been a stabilizing force, funding our expansion and helping us through tough times. Amelia was scrolling through her phone. I can't find anything about Silvercrest Capital online. No website, no public portfolio, no press releases. David said, they're private, which isn't unusual for family offices or high net worth investors. Dad muttered, probably some rich kid playing at investing. Just then, Dad's phone rang. He looked at the screen and frowned. It's the main office. I need to take this. He stepped out of the boardroom. Mom filled the silence. Peggy, your proposal was sweet, but you can see it's not feasible. We have bigger issues to deal with. You can leave, this is getting too complicated. Before I could respond, Dad burst back into the room, his face as white as a sheet. That was accounting. Silvercrest Capital has initiated withdrawal procedures on their entire $6 million investment. David grabbed his tablet. That's impossible. Most of their investment has lock-up periods. Dad said, his voice shaking, according to accounting, they structured their investments with early withdrawal provisions, and they're exercising them now. Amelia asked, all of it? They're pulling out $6 million? Dad sank into his chair. Yes, every cent. And it gets worse. The withdrawal triggers certain debt covenants. Our line of credit with the bank becomes immediately callable, and our equipment leases have co-terminus clauses. If they pull out, everything collapses. The room erupted. Amelia started firing questions. Mom grabbed Dad's arm, and Mr. Harris was frantically typing on his laptop. I sat quietly, my hands folded on the table. Dad's phone rang again. It was Silvercrest Capital. Everyone froze. Dad put the phone on speaker. A professional voice said, this is Mr. Thompson from Silvercrest Capital. I'm calling to inform you that we're exercising our withdrawal rights effective immediately. Dad pleaded, Mr. Thompson, can you tell me why? This will destroy our company. Mr. Thompson replied, it's a portfolio reallocation decision. Sterling Enterprises no longer fits our target profile. Amelia interjected, who makes these decisions? Who's in charge at Silvercrest? We have a right to know. Mr. Thompson said, Silvercrest is a private investment group. We don't disclose our ownership structure. Amelia was furious. This is ridiculous. You can't just destroy a company without any explanation. There was a pause on the line, and then a new voice came on. A voice they all recognized. Hello, Dad. The silence was deafening. Dad's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, recognition, shock. Peggy? He whispered. Yes. I own Silvercrest Capital, along with several other investment vehicles. Mom gasped, and Amelia grabbed the edge of the table. Dad said, Silvercrest has $6 million invested in Sterling Enterprises. You work at a charity, making $70,000 a year. I corrected him, I make $70,000 at the charity, but that's not my only income. I started with the trust fund Grandma left me, $400,000. I invested it in tech startups in 2018 and 2019, turning it into about $3 million by 2020. Then I got into cryptocurrency before the boom. By 2022, I had $20 million, and today, I manage about $40 million in assets. David was smiling. The efficiency recommendations in your proposal. You knew what you were talking about. You've been analyzing Sterling's quarterly reports for years, haven't you? I nodded. Yes. I know every aspect of the business. Amelia's $3 million expansion plan would have overextended the company, just as I predicted. You'd have been in debt within 24 months and forced to sell assets within 3 years. Dad said, "You've been investing in my company for 7 years and never said a word." I replied, "You never asked. You took the money and forgot about it. But when I offered $900,000, you called me a pretend business person." Mom pleaded, "Peggy, if you're really Silvercrest, why are you withdrawing? Why are you destroying the family business?" I looked at them all. I'm not destroying anything. I'm withdrawing my capital from an investment that no longer meets my portfolio requirements. The real reason is that you've always dismissed me. Every time I tried to talk about business, you brushed me off. 6 years ago, when you needed capital for the Eastern expansion, I offered to invest. You laughed and told me to focus on my charity work. 4 years ago, during the supply chain crisis, I offered to help, and you told me to let the adults handle it. David spoke up, "Peggy's proposal was excellent. It was more realistic and sustainable than Amelia's." Amelia glared at him. "You're taking her side?" David said, "I'm just stating the facts. Peggy's suggestion would have saved the company." David then asked me, "Peggy, if Sterling Enterprises had accepted your proposal and treated it seriously, would you reconsider the withdrawal?" I thought about it and said, "No. This isn't about the proposal. It's about respect, or the lack of it." I stood up and gathered my things. I've supported this company quietly for 7 years. I provided capital when you needed it, kept silent when you made mistakes. But when I finally tried to participate openly, you humiliated me. Now, you'll have to deal with the consequences without my $6 million. I walked out, ignoring their shouts and pleas. When I got home, I had multiple missed calls from Dad, Mom, and Amelia. I blocked them all temporarily. David called me later. "Sterling is in crisis mode. The attorney has been calling about the withdrawal timeline, and your father is in a panic. The withdrawal is proceeding as scheduled, and based on their current financials, they'll have about 70 days before the debt covenants trigger. They'll scramble for emergency funding but will likely be rejected by serious investors. Eventually, they'll have to either sell assets or file for bankruptcy." I felt a pang in my stomach. "How many people will lose their jobs?" David said, "If they liquidate, all 80 employees. If they manage a restructuring bankruptcy, maybe half." I thought about it and then called my chief investment officer, Lisa. "I want you to contact every employee being laid off from Sterling Enterprises. Tell them Silvercrest is hiring for a new manufacturing operation. Same pay, same benefits, same positions. We'll cover relocation if necessary." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "Peggy, that's going to cost a lot." I replied, "I know. But there's a talented workforce about to be unemployed, and I'd be a fool not to hire them. Also, David is available as a CFO." 6 weeks later, I was in a renovated warehouse in the outskirts of the city. Former Sterling employees were setting up equipment and organizing production lines. David walked over with a tablet. "We've got 60 of the 80 Sterling employees on board. The rest either found other jobs or moved out of state. 60 is enough to start operations. What are we calling the company? I looked around at the hard-working people. Silvercrest Manufacturing. Simple and clear. David smiled. Your parents are going to be beside themselves. Sterling Enterprises filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 4 weeks ago. Your dad mortgaged everything to save it, but it wasn't enough. The company is being liquidated. I've been blocking my family's calls, but Amelia came to my office one day. She looked exhausted. Peggy, Sterling is gone. It'll be officially dissolved soon. Dad lost the house, Mom moved in with an aunt, and I'm trying to salvage my career. I'm sorry. You were right about everything. My expansion plan was a disaster, and your proposal would have saved the company. I said, I forgive you for underestimating me, but I can't forgive you for being so cruel. And I won't help rebuild Sterling because there's nothing left. You've always put business before family and treated me like I didn't matter. Amelia asked, is there any way to make this right between us? I said, maybe eventually, but not now. She then said, Dad wanted me to ask if you'd consider buying Sterling's remaining assets, the brand name, equipment, and client relationships. The bankruptcy court is auctioning them off. He thought if you bought them, the Sterling legacy wouldn't be completely destroyed. I thought about it. How much are the assets worth? She said, about $1,500,000 for everything. I replied, I'll think about it. Not for Dad or the family legacy, but because some of those assets, especially the equipment, would be useful for Silvercrest Manufacturing. After she left, Lisa came in. Are you really going to bid on Sterling's assets? I said, yes. The equipment is valuable, and having access to their client list could speed up Silvercrest Manufacturing's growth. It's just good business. A few days later, I got a text from Dad. Peggy, I saw the article about you in the business magazine. You were right about everything. I'm sorry I didn't listen. Congratulations on your success. You earned it. I showed the text to David. He asked, are you going to respond? I said, eventually, but not today. I'm too busy building my own empire and proving that I'm a serious investor. As I look out at the bustling Silvercrest Manufacturing, I know that I've come a long way. I've built a company that treats its employees well and focuses on sustainable growth. And I've shown my family that they were wrong to underestimate me.